All right. With that, we will, I see Heidi must be recording. We will call the, forget what day it even is, May 26, 2020, Winona County Board meeting. We'll start. I have my handy little flag. You may remain seated. We'll start our meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance
to the flag
of the United States of America
and to the
and to the republic for which it
stands,
one
nation
under God,
God, indivisible,
with
with liberty
justice
and justice for all.
All right, thank you. Short agenda tonight. We do apologize for anybody that was trying to, oh, I see Chris
Is on.
There you go. Anybody who was trying to join us, there was some technical difficulty. I believe I was told in the boardroom that wasn't going to make this possible, so we are all sitting in our own spaces as we proceed. Public comment is our standard procedure. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to make a comment? Any public comment? I even see Chris as a face. Nice to see you, Chris.
Yes.
Anybody wishing to make a public comment? And again, last time, anyone wishing to make a public comment, seeing nobody joining in or anything on the participant list. We'll move on to item 3, approval of the county board meeting minutes from May 12th, 2020.
I'll move approval.
Commissioner Kavesi, second.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Jacob, seconded by Commissioner Kavesi for approval of the meeting minutes. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. All right. Item number 4, consent comments and approval of the agenda. Mr. Fritz?
I have nothing to change or add.
Okay, Commissioner Kavesi?
I have an agenda request at the end and an announcement.
Okay, agenda and announcement. Commissioner Meyer?
one board action and a quick announcement.
Okay, one board and announcement. Commissioner Olson?
I have nothing.
Okay, Commissioner
Thank you.
Jacob? Thank you. Commissioner Jacob?
Nothing for me.
Okay, and I have an announcement and then a related to the AMC district meeting. We got some information late this afternoon. So there'll be a question about that for everybody. So with that, a motion for the agenda.
Commissioner Meyer, so moves. Jacob,
Commissioner
second.
Kavesi, second.
Well, I heard Commissioner Kavesi. Okay,
Nick,
Commissioner Meyer made the motion. Commissioner Kavesi seconded the motion. All those in favor say aye.
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 Nay. Okay, we did not do roll call votes because those are pretty controversial motions. So I accept the universal motion agreement. But now consent business, Mr. Fritz, if you'd read the consent business into the record, please.
Okay. The consent business department recommendations 5.1, approve agreement with Southeastern Libraries Cooperative. 5.2, approve resolution proclaiming National Drug Court Month. 5.3, approve Minnesota Department of Health Community Health Board Grant Project Agreement Amendment. 5.4, approve monthly resolution. 5.5, award bid for annual supply of gasoline and diesel fuel to Severson Oil Company. 5.6, award bid for reconstruction of CASA 12 in Ridgeway to Fitzgerald Excavating. 5.7, confirm payment of disbursements, and that concludes the consent agenda.
Okay, I just a comment on, I see Ms. Hyder is on joining. I do apologize. I mean, we've usually really given a showcase to our drug court, and we got a lot of information on it, and it was good information and highlighted. And I would reserve the right to maybe have that presentation when we all get together so that the public understands what's going on. I did send Karen an email saying you really wanted this just on consent, but I didn't hear back from you, Karen. But I can understand it being COVID, it's a little difficult to do a presentation, a quality presentation.
Yes, thank you.
All right. Karen, did you have some comment?
Just, yeah, I think it was because of the COVID, and Ms. Hyder had presented to the board, what was that, Karen, about a couple months
I
ago?
want to say it was November, actually.
Oh, okay. Well, time just drifts. But yeah, I think it'd be nice to have a fuller presentation just about how our drug court's going, our treatment court now, it's called. So, but I wanted
Yes.
Karen to be on the call in case you did have any questions about what was going on, but we did put enough information in there, I think, that answers hopefully some basic questions about what's going on. So.
Okay. So with that, any other discussion on the consent business? Motion to be in order?
Jacob, I'll move to approve the consent business as read.
Olson, second.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Jacob, seconded by Commissioner Olson. We will do a roll call vote, so everybody, we're on the record. Commissioner Kavesi,
Commissioner Kavesi votes aye.
Commissioner Meyer,
Meyer votes aye.
Commissioner Olson,
Olson votes aye.
Commissioner Jacob,
Jacob, aye.
and Commissioner Ward votes aye. So that all the consent business was approved. And thank you, Karen, for being here. And thank you, Karen. It's Karen. Is it Karen Hyder?
Yes, Karen.
Karen, I apologize.
Okay.
We
And-
do that to confuse you.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Moving on. Number 6, general business. 6.1, discuss and/or appoint citizen advisory committee volunteer. And we have one for the, just a second. We have one for the Personnel Board of Appeals. Emily Solheid. So that person, do we want to appoint that person? I do have one question. Is that how long of a term is that? Do we know? Maureen, do we know?
It's 4 years.
4 years? Okay. But I guess the question would be, we're into almost June, so we're 6 months into 2020. So was it initially for January for 4 years?
Actually, I think I stand corrected as 3 years because there's 3 members to the group and it rotates every third year.
Okay.
But it is for the full year, yes. So
Okay.
we're partway through this 3-year term.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Mhm.
Any discussion on this appointment? Anybody want to make a motion to appoint?
I'll move to appoint the applicant.
Commissioner
Jacob, second.
second.
Okay. All right. We have a motion by Commissioner Olson, a second by Commissioner Jacob to appoint the applicant, Emily Solheid. Any further discussion? We'll do a roll call vote. Commissioner Kavesi,
Kavesi votes aye.
Commissioner Meyer,
Meyer votes aye.
Commissioner Olson,
Olson, aye.
Commissioner Jacob,
Jacob, aye.
and Ward votes aye. So we will notify Emily that she has been appointed to that. And we still have a vacancy on the Health and Human Service Advisory. So anybody interested in that, we are still taking applications. And they would contact, is that still online, or they can contact the personnel office, correct? Ms. Holte?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. All right, moving on. Committee reports and communications. Commissioner Kavesi.
Okay, I've had several citizen calls on our public health safety in our buildings. People are hesitant to enter. They're putting things off. And I know we have a very solid plan. I appreciate the work that was Maureen, the HR. But I would like a chance for the board to either look that over in a work session, that would be appropriate, to make sure that it follows current science. I mean, it's all about the COVID-19. So just to make sure it's as we all wanted, I guess. I don't know if anyone else has had those kind of citizen contacts, but I've had several. So that's my request.
Okay, a request for maybe a board review? Is that what you're asking for?
Well, a working session would be faster than waiting for another board meeting, but I'd be open to either a working session or a board meeting. I don't know what our schedule looks like coming up.
Well, the next board meeting is June 9th. So do you feel that's soon enough? I know.
Well, it's public health, otherwise, yeah.
Yeah, I did ask Mr. Fritz for kind of an update for the public of how we are opening up, because and even personally, I'm not sure exactly what's open and what's by appointment and everything. Mr. Fritz, do you have something to share?
That's a pretty wide range of things. We've got a COVID preparedness plan that was sent out to the board and to all the county users and so forth, which really deals with the precautions within kind of a general framework for employees in the public. But each building and each service has their own kind of set of situations and criteria. So the courthouse, for instance, isn't open to the public and doesn't plan on being open to the public till a certain date. Court proceedings are in a different time schedule. Karin, we've had meetings on this, and Karin could give you the details. It would take us a half an hour to kind of lay out where everything's at on that one. The License Center, I think a lot of you know that it's open, but it's limited to a certain capacity, in terms of who can be in there. The Sheriff's Department is open, but they've got certain ways they're handling the counter. The county office building open today, in a kind of a soft opening. We didn't announce it to everybody publicly, but we are open now, and we're going to let people kind of trickle back. So each location is just a little different and has a few different standards. And different rules. I mean, you've got the judicial branch, requiring certain things to open across the street. You've got different requirements, depending on the building and situation. Our public health people over in the Winona, over at Winona Healthcare, have some different requirements because of that building and how they're handling scanning and so forth. Or screening and so forth. So it's not a one size fits all by any means. So if we're going to discuss it, then I'd kind of like to know specifically what you want to discuss.
The comments I got were related to mask wearing.
Yeah, our current process is it kind of, again, like the courthouse, for instance, hasn't been decided. We don't have, that's in part of the discussions, but hasn't been decided. The county office building, for instance, if an employee wants a mask, we have that. We have cleaning supplies. We have all those kind of things, gloves. If the public needs a mask, we can provide those. We're currently not requiring everybody to wear a mask. That's kind of depends on what business you're in and what kind of traffic you have. And we put in social distancing in this building, for instance. We have plexiglass shields at the lobby. We have stanchions that are creating physical barriers 6 feet away from the counters, that kind of thing. We have signs indicate only those that need to actually have business to come in the building instead of bringing in groups of people, that kind of thing. So we're rotating employees in terms of not having full staffing. We have partial staffing, but enough to cover any walk-ins. This building doesn't have as many walk-ins as you might think. The license, obviously totally different. We have transit officers doing crowd control there in the sense of making sure that people are getting 6 foot distancing within the mall and or outside the mall. and then only allowing 10 people in at a time for actual service, if that, because we have 6 windows depending on who's there and who's open. So they're providing services there. The sheriff's department, again, clerical is had made some barriers between the people, and of course they have some plexiglass there as well. So it kind of depends on each situation. Even each work area, we have things a little differently in front of some certain lobby areas. We've eliminated a number of chairs, so you can have social distancing between the chairs, so that we don't have groups anymore like we did in the past. So pretty much every recommendation you can think of that's out there, we're doing in some way or the other.
Yeah, thank you, Ken, for that update. I did talk with this person more than once, and then just today I had a different call that was related to the same thing. But and I even emailed Ken because I was confused when I went back and reread the COVID plan. At one place it said masks are recommended, but not. Well, it didn't say but not required, and then it said masks are available if the staff wants it. So people were a little confused. They either thought, it's yes mask or no mask, or whatever. These, this is just more than one citizen who came forward with these kind of concerns about public health. I just think well, we're getting into the issue, so I don't know if we need to go further.
I think if there's I understand, but if there's a specific location or a specific thing, if it's the masks, for instance, the CDC recommends that if you can't achieve social distancing, then you should definitely have a mask. So in the cases of, so it's one of those things where they didn't come out and say you absolutely have to have one. They said, if you read the information that the CDC put out, it says obviously masks are useful if you can't continue to have social distancing.
I tried to explain all that, and the people were still just kind of concerned. They don't want to come in until everybody wears a mask, basically.
Well, yeah, and I think that's true in a lot of cases. There's people that aren't going to go back to businesses, even if they are wearing masks, because it kind of goes across the whole gambit. And it also depends on your personal situation. I mean, if you have certain underlying issues, you have family members who have underlying issues, that factors in as well. So we tried to kind of go with what's the recommendation of the CDC and the state government, public health as well, and try to respect both camps, so to speak, in terms of not going too far one way or the other. So that's kind of the approach we took.
I know. I dug through all that stuff that CDC put out and all that, but it's just that different people, the doctor, what's his name, Dr. Ulsterholm at the U, and different people are making very strong cases. I found a lot of things online that make a very strong case for wearing a mask. It says you can't, I can't give this to you that way. Not that if I'm the mask wearer, I'm not protecting myself from you, but if I'm wearing a mask, I respect you, and I'm gonna, prevent. It's prevention, but that's just what people were asking me. So I said I would see if we wanted to have a discussion. So now that we've had somewhat of a discussion.
Madam Chair.
Karen had her hand up, and then I'll come to Commissioner Meyer. Karen.
Thank you. I used the little hand, right.
Oh.
I just wanted to say, we have scheduled for the June 9th board meeting a request to reopen the courthouse in a soft reopening in phases, and we have a committee a multidisciplinary committee working with the courts, with DOC, with Sheriff's Office, with the county, and public health, and our emergency management. So together to work on reopening the courthouse to the public. So I just wanted to let you all know, at least for that building, we're working on it, and we've scheduled this June for board to consider that. under a phased plan. So that's
Thank you. Commissioner Meyer.
Yeah, not to have the conversation, but I would be interested in having the conversation from the perspective of, even if we, if we feel like we can't mandate masks all of the time, for people who are more in a vulnerable situation, then can we provide hours for them,
Right.
like many of the stores do?
Yeah, that's one option.
We are doing that. The one thing I think we still have to add is to put up a sign that says masks are available on request. But we have told all the employees, especially the customer-facing employees, that they can offer a mask as long as we have them available, which
Yeah.
right now we do. So
Yeah.
I'm just really
like-
thinking that of a time when folks who have underlying conditions could be
Yeah.
guaranteed that if they came in during that time or made an appointment or
Right.
whatever. But I don't, not to have the conversation, but to just say, yeah, I'd be interested in trying to have that conversation. So thank you.
So maybe we'll put something along with what Karen said about the courthouse on our June meeting.
Okay.
And
I
I do have a question. Are masks from the PRC?
What's the PRC?
I was forced to buy one at Menards last
Oh.
week. We went in a vehicle,
Oh.
where we had nothing, and
The
so I had
reason-
to buy one, and it was individually wrapped, and on the
Yes.
back it was made from the People's Republic of China.
Yeah, I have an N95 mask by coincidence because we sent some to my son overseas and one kind of fell out of the package, but I haven't opened it. The research that I've seen online says that a cloth mask for these, discussion periods is sufficient. So I
But
wouldn't.
remember, I said I was just watching Lester Holt on the evening news, and now we're talking face shields. And you can save your liter pop bottle and make one. So maybe and they said that's the next big thing, because that one doctor got it from transmission on the airline through his eyes, because his eyes weren't covered. So
Well,
stay
that-
tuned. Throw
Yeah,
your
it
pop bottles away.
well, there's a lot of factors because it depends how long you're interacting with people. And
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. So that was your one thing. You had an announcement. Commissioner
Yeah,
Kavess.
I just wanted to say that the Women's Resource Center, which now has a new title, is having an online auction for a fundraiser on Thursday, May 28th. So it's all on their website, just poke in if you want or whatever.
Okay. Thank you.
Mhm.
Commissioner Meyer.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So the city of Winona is thinking about relaxing some of their ordinances, given that restaurants and bars can only serve outdoors. And I know that other cities have looked at it as well in terms of just maybe temporarily relaxing some of their zoning ordinances to make that possible for restaurants that otherwise would not have outdoor seating or be able to serve outdoors. And so I had exchanged emails with Administrator Fritz. So the conversation, if we have it next time, would really just be to decide if we even want to have our staff in planning and zoning think about whether there's any value in doing this, and if it's a possibility. It would be temporary.
I don't know that I would second the motion because we don't have any jurisdiction over any incorporated city limits. So I feel like we could be kind of taken by having the conversation where maybe asserting to these cities that we have some authority that we don't have. And I think it could be offensive to those towns. St. Charles and Rolling Stone and Elba, they all have every right to do that, and we really have nothing to say about it.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Commissioner
Once
Meyer.
again, not to have the conversation, but our zoning ordinance does in fact have parking regulations that relate to restaurants that are not inside of towns that actually have their own zoning ordinances. So I think I'm not promoting that we would do this anywhere that does their own zoning, but for some of those establishments that are in fact subject to the county's zoning ordinances.
Do we have somebody that's willing to second that
Um,
to a county board agenda? Commissioner Kavesi, I see
Yeah,
you're,
I would second it.
okay.
We do have, places that serve food. They may not be primarily restaurants, but we have places that serve food that are in townships.
Yes, yeah, there's a few scattered around. I can think of
Yeah.
a myself. Okay, so we'll move that.
Uh, Yeah, I need some clarification because,
Yeah.
and you can see what happened tonight with, we had talked about having a request for the board agenda, then at the next board meeting, or if we, subsequent meeting, having that discussion to figure out what we really wanted to do with it, if anything,
Yeah.
and then talking about it. And the reasoning is because everyone wants to, or at least I do, want to understand what the commissioner that's requesting it really wants to focus on, so we can be efficient in getting the information, for that discussion. So that's why it always kind of starts out with, well, what are you really talking about? What do we need to do? And I think we're kind of, a couple meetings ago, we had a list of things that had been requested, and we kind of talked about doing that. And the meeting ran really late, and so we weren't able to, kind of deal with that issue. And it's still out there, and it's still going to continue to pop up, because in order to understand what you want to talk about, we have to talk about it. So I don't know what they thought about the board on how we should address these things.
Okay, I see Commissioner Jacobs' hand is up.
As long as we're still in our regularly scheduled meeting, I will make a motion to take from the table the item that we put on the table to discuss future agenda items and how we deal with those.
Okay, you're right. We did table it a couple meetings ago. That does require a second.
Well, okay. Point of order, I think.
Yes, Commissioner
Okay,
Meyer.
so that's fine, except that I think that needed to be on the agenda.
Item from the table?
Commissioner Olson. Commissioner Olson?
I have nothing
Oh,
to add.
Oh, you turned yellow on my screen, so that usually is.
Did I?
I was reading. Yeah, I don't know why. When
My
somebody
halo.
wants to talk, hello, your halo. Clarity on process. Either Mr. Fritz or
Well, if it's been tabled, it's not, to bring it back up, I don't think you have to have it on the agenda. You'd have to ask Karen.
Yeah.
Put her on the spot.
legal.
It says here that a second is required. It is debatable. It's not amendable. It requires a majority vote, and it's to bring before the board a motion previously tabled.
So Madam Chair,
Motion. Yeah, Commissioner Meyer.
my understanding was that we had actually come to an agreement, but
Mhm.
we
No.
hadn't reviewed the list. I thought we had made an agreement that we would agree to discuss rather than agree to make some kind of an action. So in this case, if I say, I'd like to at least discuss this, we would discuss that at some time in the future, but not that we would actually direct staff to do anything until after the conversation, right? I guess I thought we had agreed to that, and then we were just going to
Yeah.
review the list.
My understanding was that's what we tabled, because I was not on the same page as you, and before we got to that, it got tabled.
No, we tabled review of the list and setting.
No. That's not what no.
Yeah,
I'm not
because honestly, I'm fine with just having the conversation.
Yeah, that's what I remember. We didn't want to take time to get into the ins and outs of this
The list.
item on the list as opposed to that item on the list or anything like that. So, but we were willing to have the discussion.
Attorney Sonneman has got my attention. Karen. Attorney
I'm
Sonneman.
not sure exactly what Commissioner Jacob, is it you want to bring back what had been previously tabled? And that would be to take a motion from the table to bring before the more previously tabled. Second is required. It's debatable. It's not amendable, and it takes a majority vote to bring it back. So and that's straight from the procedures, and maybe Commissioner Jacob was reading from that on page 5 of the agenda. So I'm not exactly sure what Commissioner Jacobs, what you're asking, if you're asking to bring it back or tabling it again and not discussing future agenda items at this point in time. I'm not sure.
Well, the chair isn't recognizing me.
Right, Commissioner Jacob, sorry. Trying to find
Uh,
multitasking with multiple devices here. Commissioner Jacob.
Initially, long ago, I asked to have an item on the agenda because Commissioner Meyer had asked to have Soil and Water discuss what they were doing with cover crops and some of the issues that were going on. And Commissioner Kavesi seconded it, and then it was rushed apparently to the agenda. And so then I said, well, now, hey, wait a minute. I want to have a discussion about the animal unit cap. And if Commissioner Ward seconds it, it's on the agenda and we can call Plainview Vet Clinic and anyone we want to call. So that led to the question of how does something get on a future agenda? Do we first? So that was what I feel got tabled, was that discussion never played out.
Madam
Yep.
Chair?
Just finish, Commissioner Jacob.
Sure.
And so my position was that the board needs to discuss whether when one person brings an item up, the second person seconds it, now it comes to the board to see whether the full board wants to explore it further or whether the full board wants to squash it. Because if it is open after two commissioners, there's going to be a lot of stuff on here that probably the other three commissioners might not want the commissioners in the minority to discuss. And I feel like that's what was tabled. And that's what I asked to untable tonight, was to have the discussion so then we could address Commissioner Meyer's issues on what she wants to bring forward for the next meeting.
Madam Chair.
Yeah, Commissioner Meyer.
So I'm pretty sure that, no, we did have that conversation and I actually agree. That's fine with me. And so we voted on it and we approved it. And we also asked at that meeting if the administrator would bring back the list so that we could decide what to do about everything that was on the list. And that is what came before us and got tabled. Now, can someone check the minutes?
Well, we can check, but you're both going in the same direction. So,
yeah, I mean,
if you, we could bring back the list at the next one, plus the two items that were brought up tonight. And then at that point, you need to discuss I guess the process has already been decided, or at least agreed to in consensus.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that was my recollection, is that we did agree to the process change, or that we agreed that was always the process, but I don't have any problem.
Or you could take an extra step to be formal, Commissioner Jacobs indicating that we'd untable the order or this request. That means at the next meeting, the board would make the formal decision that that's how you're going to handle things.
Well,
And then we'd have to have,
already been made, is my point. Yeah.
So either way, we get to the same point.
Yeah.
It's just how you want to do it.
I think it's a matter of process and consistency in the process.
Is there any reason I can't untable something from the past and have it discussed tonight?
If it has already been passed and is not in fact actually on the table. Yeah.
Well, did we, I guess, Commissioner Jacob, I remember it was late. It was a long meeting. We did table the list. I know we tabled going over the list.
But, so what I remember more vividly was that I was the one who put this agenda item on the agenda.
Yeah.
And that's why my recollection is more clear that it never got voted on. A consensus or agreeing is not a vote. We decided we're going to table the issue.
Yep. And I think
I feel confident when you look through the minutes, that's what you're going to find.
I kind of remember, yes, because of the lateness of the hour, it was not fully vetted, I think I would have to say. And we did kind of agree. Did we take a formal vote? I do not think we took a formal vote. I think it was
as far as I knew the list got brought forward, but that was not part of my request. That was just something that staff brought into it. My request for a future agenda item was specifically how a future agenda item gets processed. And I felt like it never got voted on.
Okay. So you're asking to take it off the table. And table requires a second. It's debatable, it is not amendable, and it takes a vote. So, so you have a motion to take off the table the process of getting items on our regularly scheduled agenda. Am I
Yes,
reading that right?
yes.
Okay.
Whether two commissioners getting an agenda item on a future agenda, or whether they only get to bring it to the agenda so the full board can discuss what you like. There could be a lot of things that already have played out tonight on both questions that Commissioner Meyer and Commissioner Kovesi have brought up. Those should all play out in the discussion of if the full board wants to do that and wants to direct staff to go forward with something. That's a lot different than three commissioners saying, well, we don't even want you two commissioners to bring that item forward, so we don't need to tell staff what to do.
Okay,
So
if I could jump in, I checked the minutes and it says on a motion of Commissioner Meyer to table providing direction for future agenda items.
Right, but it was the meeting prior to that that we actually approved the clarification of what the procedure was going to be.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay.
So where do we go from here? It's becoming more unclear to me.
Well, there's a motion right now, from my understanding, to untable the discussion of the process.
Okay, but reread what Commissioner Meyer's motion was.
Yeah, that was on the motion of Commissioner Meyer to table providing direction for future agenda items, but that was referring to the list and just putting the list off.
Mhm.
She's indicating that the previous meeting, there was a decision made to talk about, or not to talk about, to have a two-step process. You request the future agenda item, someone seconds that goes to the next meeting. The next meeting, there's a discussion about what the full board wants to do with that item.
Mhm.
So, Jacob.
So with you having read that, if you reread it again and you look at it from my perspective of what I had put on the agenda and what I felt Chris was saying was what I wanted to happen, but she's saying she was referring to a list, whereas it didn't specify the list. It says future agenda items, which is what I had on the agenda for discussion. It doesn't. She didn't reference the list. Well, that's why I agreed to it and voted to it.
Right. It's confusing.
Read it again.
The way the minutes are written, you could take it either way.
Well, the minutes should. I mean, that's what I understood and what I was voting on, what I'm dredging out from the table.
Yeah. But I think to move the process forward, I mean, we if there's a consensus by the board to have that process be that you request an item, then the next meeting that places it for the board to discuss as a group to give staff direction on how to, what to do with it. And that, to me, that there seems to already be a consensus on that process. So, I think that's what we should move forward from. And it depends on what you're comfortable with. If you're comfortable with saying that's the process, then okay. If you need a formal motion on that, you could do that, I suppose.
So a question as process then. So on our printed agenda, would we have an automatic placeholder like we have, call to order, public comment, approval? So would we have a placeholder there for after general business, before committee report? Wait, maybe after committee report, would we have a placeholder for?
You could, but I don't think it's necessary because we don't have items all the time.
Right.
The process would just be, let's take Commissioner Kovesi's request tonight. So she requested to talk about the policies and so forth surrounding reopening of the buildings. So that's two commissioners have indicated that that's something they'd like to talk about. So that goes on the next agenda as a line item under general business. And then that's when the board has to decide whether it's actually what's going to happen to that. Will there be a discussion, a working session, action?
It'll go
Yeah.
business.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So did that bring any clarity to our process?
I've seen some agendas where it's like commissioners' concerns, because a lot of the items I bring up are the result of conversations I've had with citizens. And I can't quite either give them a clear enough answer that they're satisfied, or, so that's why I bring them here, so that we can discuss it and then, come to some clearer resolution. So we could have commissioner concerns. I don't always have them, but I do have to say recently I've had quite a few that range widely in topic and subject. But I think it's because people have more time on their hands.
So Commissioner Jacob, are you comfortable with the process?
I think everything works out just fine as long as everyone is in agreement, or at least 4 of the 5 commissioners are in agreement that they want to move forward with it. It's what's at issue is the commissioner and the second versus if there's 3 commissioners who don't want it to happen. When everyone wants it to happen, it can go along smoothly and everything seems like, yeah, we're all on the same page, everything's working out just right. But if you have 2 commissioners who one says, yeah, I want it, second one says, yeah, I want it, but the other 3 don't want it to happen, that's why this needs to come to a second meeting. So if that's what we're agreeing to, I think that's what we want to do. I mean, so we don't initially have a knee-jerk discussion and give staff direction immediately.
Right, and I think that's what Mr. Fritz laid out, correct?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
That's correct. And so to give you an example how that would play out, at the next meeting, we'd have the list of things that have been tabled and the 2 items from tonight on the general portion of the agenda, and the board would have to address each one of those and give us direction on what you want us to do with it.
Okay.
So is
Do
that,
so
I'm looking for, is that what everybody said, or is consensus? Is that what you're understanding?
okay, well, Commissioner Jacob, your motion fails due to the lack of a second. We've had some discussion. Do you feel we need does anybody feel we need a formal motion, or are we in agreement? Whatever the board would like.
I'm not sure what we're agreeing to.
Well,
I would like to do what
process.
Mr. Fritz just, I would like to do what Mr. Fritz just said, which is bringing it back up for the next meeting.
Right, that would be part of our process.
Right, because that is our process, yes.
Right.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Meyer.
Yeah, so we aren't asking for presentations. We aren't asking for staff to do anything. We're just asking for the board only to have a conversation.
Right.
And at a future meeting, not at that meeting.
Correct.
Right, exactly.
And
Yeah.
we should try to refrain from having the conversation until then.
Well, we need to get this worked out. So yeah.
Yeah, like tonight, I want to have the conversation. So I wasn't sure if it's relevant for a work session or a board meeting itself. So that's usually my issue is like,
Yeah, okay. Commissioner Jacob, you look puzzled.
I am a little.
So
I feel like we're all on the same page as the administrator, except for the administrator can't make a motion, and the only thing we've done is tabled something, and no one's made what Chris has put on forth for the next time. We're in agreement that Commissioner Kavesi wants to have that discussion at the next meeting, which follows all of our past processes, but it still has left this other issue all lay in the weeds on that we agree with Administrator Fritz, and we've just done all that. So why doesn't somebody make that motion? My motion failed, and then we're done.
So since we have the items tabled, why don't we untable those, and then we add the other 2? That's just based on this meeting, and then we have the full list to discuss each of the items at the next meeting. That assumes that it's a 2-step process. You've got the list or any normal request. Then you've got the time when only the board that talks about it and decides what's the best format and whether they want to move forward with it or not. And then that gives staff direction, and we limit the resources to that discussion. So I think you're good. If you want a formal process, I think that you untable the list, and then we'll take the 2 items from tonight and add those to it for the next meeting.
Right. Commissioner Meyer, will move to untable the list. Perhaps we can discuss it at our next meeting.
Yeah.
Right, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Meyer, second by Commissioner Jacob to untable the list of questionable topics. And okay, so all those in favor, we'll do a roll call on that one. Commissioner Kavesi,
Commissioner Kavesi says aye, votes aye.
Commissioner Meyer,
Aye. Meyer votes aye.
Commissioner Olson,
Commissioner Olson votes nay because I'm still not quite sure what we're doing. So I'll vote no.
okay, Commissioner Jacob,
Jacob, aye.
and Commissioner Ward will vote aye. And as always, so at 4-1, as always, we can review and change our minds at some future time if new information comes forward or a better process. Okay, so is that clear enough, Administrator Fritz?
There's mud.
Okay.
Madam
Okay.
Chair.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
Commissioner Meyer.
Yes, thank you so much, ma'am. So I do, once again, now that things have changed, and I know that staff is busy, and the administration and HR have been busy drawing up new plans, and I appreciate all of your efforts to keep our staff safe and all of our customers safe. And so thank you very much for all your professionalism and all the work. And I also, I feel like I honestly do just need to take a minute and say, to express my condolences for the folks in the county, all the senior citizens at Sauer who've been lost to us as a result of the COVID-19 disease. And I am grateful to Sauer and to all of their staff and to all the work that's been going into all of this. And I just want everyone to know that my heart really does go out to the victims of the disease.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner Meyer. I volunteer at Sauer Home once a week. Haven't in a while, obviously, and I lost friends, so thank you.
Thank you. I think we all have experienced things at different times the last couple months, and it's not an easy time for anyone. Let's see, Commissioner Jacob, did you? No. Did you
Well, I didn't have anything, but I certainly don't want to just stop at the one facility. Yeah, I definitely agree with everything Commissioner Meyer is saying, but this is a countywide, statewide, nationwide, worldwide, and yeah, we definitely appreciate everything that Sauer's done, but throughout our community, we've got our small towns. Everyone is making all kinds of different pieces fit together and work together, and of course, you hear the controversial pieces that people love to get a hold of and put on whatever social media or wherever they can spread it. But the reality is there's far more working together, and I think you see our county board working well together here. And I just don't want to stop at Sauer and say those are the only people that I'm appreciative. It's across the board throughout the community, and we've got a community that really works well together. I'm thankful for that.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much. Okay.
Commissioner Ward, I just, on a lighter note, I'd like to know where Commissioner Jacob got his hair cut.
My wife.
Remember the old Colby? Remember the old Colby? Yeah.
I was going to twist that.
It's crazy.
That is what the internet is for. My husband is.
I don't have to touch up my, mine's just naturally gray, so I'm not worried about touching anything.
My husband has an art degree, and it's all just science, right? There's a whole technique. I got him about 5 videos that show how to give this exact haircut, and then I made him do it. And I want you to know he was quite
We
panicked.
are a resourceful group.
Yeah.
A couple quick things. I actually had our first face-to-face MCIT meeting last week. Of course, they are our risk management group. And boy, do we have risks coming, down the pike. There is a lot of unknown. There's a lot of good work. MCIT is very professional in how they approach things. They're putting out bulletins and information on their website and everything. But the future is full of risk. We don't know what we're going to look like, how it's going to be handled. The unfortunate part of it, it just gives the insurance company an opportunity to evaluate our risks. And that's not always good. It usually comes with a new price tag. We did have a face-to-face. We were just 10 people. The office was only 2 people. We sat 6 feet apart. We did everything we could to socially distance ourselves. The Fair Board is meeting tonight. They probably already made the decision, but I haven't seen anything. We all know the Great Minnesota Get Together. The State Fair has been canceled. Stay tuned. I have a feeling I know what they've done, but I'm not part of that organization to vote. But I think there'll be news coming out of it.
Yeah, I saw that Olmsted had canceled theirs fair.
Yeah, it's once the Minnesota State Fair, and it's amazing, but it is amazing the economic impact that one event has for the state of Minnesota. And I don't know if people know, but if you've ever been there and you've had Sweet Martha's cookies, she is a graduate of St. Catherine's. And so she got her business sense and her cooking making ability right in Winona, Minnesota. And she does an awesome job. Everybody received, I think, late this
Did
afternoon.
you mean College of St. Teresa?
Well, it's the one that used to be, yeah, is that, I probably got them.
St. T's.
Okay.
My husband actually got his degree there. I know.
Okay,
it's a women's
sorry,
school.
I had the wrong school. I'm not Catholic, so I can't keep them all straight. But anyway,
One saint's another, yeah.
they'll all do the thing. You all probably got a from AMC, Association of Minnesota Counties, about our district meeting, and there was very late this afternoon, there was a list of questions. We always have that report, and I see, I read it very briefly, what's most important, what are you doing special in your county, and something else. So if anybody has a comment, that'll be a WebEx type of meeting. We were asked to make clarity who wants to make the presentation from the county. Does anybody have a burning desire to be the spokesperson? Okay, seeing no hands raised, I guess I will assume to
Chair. Yeah.
But if you have some issues or points that you would like to be highlighted, please send me an email so that we can do those. That's Monday morning at 9 o'clock, 9 to 11:30. So be there.
I thought I saw that there was a letter asking for haircut pictures, Commissioner.
Yes, before and some before and afters or something. Yeah. We had MCIT. We had the discussion course that's predominantly men. They were talking about what was it called? The Flowbee, the one you put on your vacuum cleaner. But I'm told it's sold out.
Yeah.
Jim Pound would always talk about his Flowbee.
Yeah. It's sold out. You can't get one. You cannot get one anyway. But like I said, now the discussion is going from the mask to a shield. Save your pop bottle, your 2-liter pop bottles. We may be making those in the future for additional protection. All right. Any other business to become before the Winona County Board at this time?
Commissioner Olson, motion to adjourn.
Okay.
Second, Commissioner Jacob.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Olson, seconded by Commissioner Jacob to adjourn. I don't know that we need a roll call. Let's just say all those in favor say aye.
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 Okay, I saw everybody say aye, so bye folks, be safe. Looks like
Everyone stay
maybe the
safe and
wild